Welcome to the new edition of our ABBA League magazine. The ninth round was in play as Slaven Rimac was trying to remain unbeaten. Union Olimpija was trying to continue its winning streak on Cedevita's expense as we decided to take a look in the camp of the team from Ljubljana. And in the end, of course, the best 5 actions of the round. After the league's director Josip Bilic decided that Jakov Vladovic's basket was valid, Budućnost took the option of appeal to the next level, but that was eventually turned down by the league's president Radovan Lorbek, and so Olimpija's win now stands as official. Szolnok acquired a new player. It is an ex-NBA player, Justin Holiday, who had a 4.7 average in the 9 games he played for Philadelphia 76ers last year. He arrived in Hungary after being turned down by the Utah Jazz. We start in Zagreb. In Dom Dražena Petrovića, where Cibona managed to arrest a run of 28 consecutive defeats in European competitions during the week, as Slaven Rimac is still undefeated after he took charge of the club from Zagreb. This time the opponent was the 11th placed Zadar. The home captain Marin Rozic was the first one to score, and for the visitors it was Andrew Lawrence, eventually Zadar's best scorer of the night with 17 points. The guests were just 2 points behind when Marko Šutalo scored his only 3 of the night. It was 18-14 after the first 10 minutes of play. Matt Janning was able to reach 9 points already as Cibona opened its highest lead thus far by 6 points. And that grew to 8 points when Marko Jagodić Kurića slam dunked. Toni Prostran needed 13 attempts this year to finally hit a 3-pointer. After that, it was 32-29. 37-33 after DJ Strawberry had first stolen the ball and then dunked. But then Zadar took the lead after Prostran was able to hit his 3rd 3-pointer. The Dalmatians also led after the first half by 40-39. But Cibona opened the second half well as Šarić rounded up a 10-2 run, which brought Cibona to a 51-45 lead. Matt Janning was the best scorer of the game with 22 points, which is his season's best. After that, Cibona's lead was 57-49. A bit later, the lead grew to 11 points for the first time in the game when Strawberry was successful from the 3-point line. 65-57 after 30 minutes of play. Šarić was the first one to score in the last period, and Cibona's lead was again 11 points. Janning assisted Planinic, who managed to score after being fouled, and some 6 minutes before the end the home team raced away to a 15-point lead and then to 22 points after the basket of Marko Arapovic, the son of the legendary Franjo Arapovic. That was 4 minutes before the end, and when Cibona rounded up a 13-0 partial, and by that deciding the game completely. A second consecutive success in the league for Slaven Rimac, and a third altogether since he took over, a 6th defeat for Zadar. The Macedonian champion hosted Igokea in Skopje. The visitors were the first ones to score through Uroš Nikolić, and for MZT it was the veteran Todor Gečevski who eventually finished the game as the second best scorer of his team with 17 points. Igokea was leading by 9-4 when Siniša Štemberger hit his first 3-pointer, but then the Macedonians sprang to life and forged a 12-4 run, after which they took the lead by 16-13. Still, it was Igokea who finished in front after the first 10 minutes, albeit with a minimal advantage. When Branko Jolovic scored 3 out of his 14 points in the evening, Igor Kea was leading by 4, but the home team replied with a 10-2 partial, which was rounded up by Uroš Lučić, who eventually reached his best tally of the season with 17 points. When Sinovic scored for 3, the home team was leading by 8 points, but the visitors did manage to close the gap to 5 till the end of the half. The first 6 points of the second half were scored by NZT, setting the highest lead of the game thus far by 11 points, but the gap was soon reduced to 5, courtesy of the best scorer of the game, Nemanja Gordic. The visitors were also able to score the last 6 points of the quarter, thus getting to within just 2 points before the last 10 minutes of the game. In the 36th minute, Justin Reynolds scored to make it 76-69 for NZT, but Igor Kea refused to surrender. It was 80-75 in the last minute of the match when Todor Gečovski scored, but Igor Kea somehow managed to equal the score through Siniša Steinberger. The home team was very successful from the free throw line in the dying seconds of the game, but when Nemanja Gordic scored, it was still possible for the visitors to win the game. But Damian Stojanovski and Stefan Sinovic were again successful from the free throw line, and NZT was able to win for the 4th time this season, in the end 90-85. Result in Skopje. A duel between two former EuroLeague teams was on schedule in Ljubljana. Olimpija was in the middle of a good run, having won twice in a row in the league as well as in the Eurocup, while Cedevita is one of the top teams in the league since the start of the season. Nolan Smith opened the scoring, while it took more than 3 minutes for the home team to score via Cedric Jackson. Alex Stevenson was rebounding and dunking well, while Jakov Vladovic made sure that Olimpija took the lead for the first time in the game right at the end of the first quarter. A very nice action from Luka Babic meant that Cedevita was trailing by just 2 points. But there was an even nicer action at the other end, with Alex Stevenson rounding up a nice collective display from the home team. It was a good period for Olimpija when Saso Salin scored his second three-pointer. The home team reached its highest lead of 9 points. Still, the visitors managed to get slightly nearer by the end of the first half. Miro Bilan was the hero of last year's Cedevita's win in Ljubljana, and this time he was doing the same as he reached his personal best of the season with 19 points and 13 rebounds. It was 45-42 after 30 minutes of play when Gailius scored on the buzzer. But the home team's lead didn't last very long, as Cedevita opened the last quarter much better than the hosts. When Luka Babic hit a 3, it was already 48-45 for the visitors, and that was just the beginning of a 15-2 run, after which Olimpija was left trailing by 52-45. It took almost half of the period for the home team to score from open play. But they did manage to stay in it, as Dragiša Drobnjak scored an equalizer just 30 seconds before the end. Having said that, Olimpija had a chance to win after regular time, but Drobnjak and Gailius squandered the opportunity. In overtime, Nolan Smith was able to contribute 5 points for Cedevita, but it was Zupčic's 3 just 52 seconds before the end, which probably turned out to be the winning shot. He was then responsible for an unsporting foul, but Olimpija couldn't capitalize. Ante Delaš was critically successful in all 4 free throws he was given, and the last act in this drama was this shot for 3 that Salin missed. The end result, 71-69 for Cedevita for their 7th win of the season, just as many losses now for the outfit from Ljubljana. And now let's take a look at the camp of Olimpija Ljubljana. It's definitely not a start that the team from Ljubljana had wished or hoped for. There have been consequences after 6 consecutive defeats in the opening of the season, and they are a burden, of course. The absence of Cedric Jackson proved to be crucial in the first games, but Dragiša Drobnjak was one of those with a heavy task of somehow keeping it all together.
I
was repeating to the players that we have to stay together and not think in a negative way, just to try to shut out everything that's going on around the club. I was also saying that we should not get too much into what the media are saying, because if you do that, that can send you to even gloomier thoughts. Playing without our main playmaker was a big handicap for us, and that was evident. Then we signed Jakov Vladovic, and now we have 2 completely different types of playmakers. Fortunately, they play well together. They both know what is expected of them, and our play is beginning to get into shape. In the end, the teams with better playmakers win. You can see that in the play itself. It's like playing without a head if you don't have one, and that was evident in our game at the beginning of the season. Now Jackson is back, and there's Vladovic as well, which is very good. It was Vladovic who took care of a memorable Olympia's win against Budućnost with a spectacular last resort shot. That might turn out to be the breaking point of Olympia's season. Of course, I received many congratulations, which is understandable since I was able to score from an impossible position. I'm very glad I made it, since we were in dire need of a win. One of those who came completely to life in the last games is Deividas Gailius, who is also Olympia's leading scorer with some 13 odd points per game on average.
We start to play good, in the beginning it's new team, we need a little bit time, to fix it everything. Coach work a lot with us. Now we start to understand what we need to do, on the court. And I think in the future we show what we can more and more.
Olympia had a relatively difficult fixture list at the beginning, with 6 of 9 games played away from home, which means they could take advantage of the next period and try to climb up the ladder. So, the goal of reaching European qualification is not yet lost. The goals are high, and that's the right thing. Olympia always has to go for the high places in every competition. We can still get there in spite the bad beginning. It is very important that when you start winning, you turn it into a habit. Everything can turn around quickly in sport. You can see for yourself that we had a difficult fixture list with a lot of games away from home. But if we manage to win the games we have lost in the first part of the season, everything can change.
Oziroma tekme potem v drugem delu spreobrnili v zmage, situacija na lestvici lahko hitro spremeni.
A lot of Olympia's eventual success will be founded on aggressive defense, as it is quite evident that the team from Ljubljana does not possess an extra offensive quality. Szolnok was keen to host Budućnost, as the Montenegrin champion had smashed the Hungarian team twice last year, both times with 25-point margin. The home team were without their influential captain Marton Bader. Having said that, their new reinforcement Justin Holiday was able to make his debut. Tomislav Ivosha was the first one to score, and for the visitors it was Jalil Akindele. Szolnok was first in the game with a good run. A 7-0 partial meant they were in front by 9-3 after David Vojvoda was successful. Nikola Ivanovic did a good job replacing slightly injured Alexander Chapin, as he was able to contribute 12 points as the visitors reached their first significant lead of the game when it was 16-11. And Vladimir Mikhailovic rounded up a 13-2 run, 18-15 after Akos Keller's basket in the first period. Budućnost equaled its highest lead thus far when Ivanovic scored his only 3 of the game, but that was followed by an 8th successive point for Szolnok, which retook the lead by 26-23 after Willy Warung had scored. But Vladimir Mikhailovic was making the most of the occasion. He was mainly responsible that Budućnost led at the break with 37-32, as he had already scored 18 out of his 23 altogether. It was a slight surprise to see Artur Chapin return to the court in the second half, but no surprise whatsoever that he can hurt the opposition, first with a basket from open play and then with his first three-pointer of the night to set the highest lead for Budućnost thus far by 9. But the visitors then ran again together with an 8-0 run as they raced away to a 53-40 lead. Chapin was able to round up his 11 points in this quarter with his third three-pointer. No surrender though from the home team, as the home support was loud, and in the 36th minute Cedric Oliver was able to close the gap to just 6 points. But Šehovic's 3 eventually turned out to be the winning shot, as it put Budućnost back to an 11-point lead. The same player also set the end result of the game, which was 84-75. Szolnok has already lost 6 games this season. "4,000 people turned up in the Jezero Hall to see their team fight it out against the defending champion. Partizan was the first to score through Geoffrey Lauvergne, and for the home team it was DJ Seeley from the three-point line. First significant lead of the game fell to Partizan though, as Milosavljevic was able to put it 7 points in front. Bogdan Bogdanovic scored the last 6 points of the quarter, thus providing the lead of 12 points already for the black and white from Belgrade. The visitors were 15 points to the good when Dejan Musli scored and Muta Nikolic was forced to take a timeout. It did have some effect, as Milos Dimic was able to close the gap to 12, but when Bogdanovic scored his third three-pointer from only 4 attempts, Partizan already had twice the number of Radnički's points. It was 45-27 when DJ Seeley rounded out the half with a three-pointer. Nothing much changed in the second half. Muftau Yaru was able to reach a double-double with 10 points and 10 rebounds, but nothing could really stop Partizan towards its 7th win of the season. Lauvergne made it plus 23 after he scored 3 out of his 17 altogether, which got replied by Sava Lesic at the other end, but soon Dragan Milosavljevic was able to score his second three-pointer and set a lead of 67-40 after 3 quarters of play. That lead got even bigger as Dejan Musli was the first one to score in the last period. He reached 12 points and 7 rebounds in the end. Marko Marinovic then scored for 3 and closed the gap to 24, and started a good run for Radnički as it scored the next 11 points to reduce the deficit to 18. But, as always in this game, Partizan had an answer to everything and was able to secure a confident win in the end, as the game finished with 92-66. It's a 7th win for Partizan. Mega Vizura registered 4 wins out of the last 5 games after being defeated in the first 3 games of the season, but was now facing the league's leader Crvena Zvezda at its home turf. The visitors were the first ones to score through Nemanja Dangubic, who was able to score 8 out of his 16 altogether already in the first quarter. Jaka Blažić scored the first 7 points for Zvezda and thus equaling the score to 7. Then Ratko Varda scored twice for 3 and was able to score 8 out of his 14 points altogether in the first period alone. But Blake Shield was also having a good night, scoring 3 times for 3 in the first period, and the home team was leading by 8 points after the first 10 minutes of play. The first 8 points of the second period were scored by the visitors, who equaled the score to 29, mostly through Radovic and Jokic, and this is the back section of the period when Miljenovic passed it nicely to Radovic. Jaka Blažić was still playing well after his new points. The result was 45-36. The Crvena Zvezda Raško Katic was the last one to score in the first half, after which Zvezda was in front by 50-39. The second half started with a 9-2 partial for the home team, which was now leading by 18 points when Blake Shield scored, and everything was pointing in the direction of an easy win for the red and white from Belgrade. Luka Mitrovic was playing well, as his 14 points is his personal best of the season. But Mega Vizura was able to finish the quarter on a high, as it was only 9 points behind when Miljenovic was able to round up the period. The visitors then closed the gap to just 3 points after the young Nikola Jokic was able to score 2 consecutive 3-pointers, and then they even succeeded to equal the score when Nemanja Radovic rounded up a 16-2 run for the visitors. That was an alarm call for the leading team of the league. They lifted their defensive performance, which bore fruit as Zvezda was able to stop the young team and scored the next 11 points, rounded up by Shield with a new 3-pointer. Then the home team routinely hanged on to the advantage and won the game by 86-78, which meant that even the 10 3-pointers scored by Mega Vizura wasn't enough to win in Belgrade. So, Cibona won the Croatian derby with ease. Much more effort needed for the second club from Zagreb, as Cedevita needed a good overtime performance to beat Olimpija in Ljubljana. The other Slovenian team did manage to win, as Krka was able to secure a rare win away from home. Easy wins for both teams from the top. 3 teams are at the top of the table, with Cibona and Budućnost trailing closely behind with 1 more defeat. No feeling of safety also for Zadar, Solnok and Radnički, as they all have just 1 more win than the bottom duo, Olimpija and Široki. 3 players earned their rights to be called the MVP of the round, as they all reached a playing index of 28. 21 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists and a steal for Willie Warren. 19 points and 13 rebounds in 27 minutes of play for Miro Bilan. And 29 points and 8 assists for Bogdan Bogdanovic, also in 29 minutes of play. And now for the best 5 actions of this, the 9th round. We start at number 5, which is this alley-oop close by Nemanja Dangubic. At number 4, it's this Cibona's counter-attack rounded up by Dario Šarić with his slam dunk. We also have a slam dunk at number 3. It is this solo action by Luka Babic in Cedevita's game against Olimpija. Number 2. It's a very young player from Crvena Zvezda, Luka Mitrovic, after being passed the ball by Jaka Blažić. And at number 1 we had this very nice action from the game of Mega Vizura against Crvena Zvezda, Nemanja Radović after a very nice pass. So this is the next round. Krka faces a heavy task of hosting the leading team of the league. That's on Saturday. And then on Sunday, Olimpija will have a very tough task of beating Partizan to reach its second win away from home this season. We'll check it out then, which is next week. See you then. Bye-bye.